Recently, we saw the GDP growth in this particular quarter is claimed to be 7.8%. In services, it is nearly 9.3%. So, what are these GDP numbers depicting? Are we seeing the right picture of the economic health of India, or is it something over biased, upward biased, or something which is not showing the correct picture of the economic health? So, a few key problems or challenges what we understand in the GDP growth rate picture being shown. So one of those is the nominal GDP, which is calculated by the NSO, National Statistics Office. So here, when we do the nominal GDP growth rate from quarter to quarter or year to year, then for organized manufacturing and services, that sector, largely the firms which are putting their financial filings to the MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, there the growth is understandable, or the increase in the production is understandable and everything. But what happens is the firms, the non-filing financial firms, the non-filing firms, the pool of firms which are not filing their returns or their financial filings to the MCA, there it is largely assessed through extrapolation from the firms which are from the filing pool. And that extrapolation is very risky, and there's a good chance what is happening as per many surveys, a lot of overstating is happening, because these extrapolation, when we go to understand these firms which are in the non-filing pool, most of these firms are defunct or largely a conduit to take away the profit from the filing firms, or some other which is not actually a healthy state of those firms. So these extrapolation is questionable to the extent which is being done. So that is one challenge in the GDP series, where we are extrapolating, and that is overstating the organized sector, manufacturing and services within organized sector. So that is being extrapolated. So that is one. Second is, how do we assess the unorganized sector, where we don't have the direct measurement. So past surveys and everything are being taken into account to extrapolate and assess, and also a correlation with the organized sector is assessed, and based on that, from the unorganized sector, what kind of growth or increase in production is happening, that is being assessed and taken by the NSO. However, here again the correlation may not be workable due to the recent times. If we see in the last 10 years, we saw demonetization, we saw GST introduction, we saw COVID. So all these offered differential impact on the organized and unorganized sector. So the correlation and taking numbers from there by extrapolation is something which is again in the risky domain, and there's a good chance that a lot of overstating is happening in the GDP growth rate. So that is the second challenge. And third is very significant, which is the GDP deflator, what is being used. So when the nominal is assessed, the nominal GDP, then the price factor has to be removed and the real GDP has to be seen. And then we get the number of 7.8% or 9.3% as our quarter-to-quarter GDP growth or year-to-year. So this deflation is happening, should happen through removing the price increase from each sector. Sectoral understanding of price deflation has to happen. So that sectoral removing of the price is something which is not happening appropriately, because for instance, in services sector, if we see how the prices are deflated, so there WPI inflation is being used, which is commodity heavy, and largely or barely in fact tracks the services sector. So deflating through WPI is always overestimating the kind of services growth, the growth in the services sector what we are seeing. So that is one reason why we saw 9.3% of QOQ growth in the services sector. It should have been much lower than that in terms of real GDP growth. So this deflation has to happen correctly, and if we see we are doing single deflators of WPI price index, but in most of the leading economies double deflation is used. So there the input and the output prices are deflated separately, because when they get diverged, when there's a high divergence in the input prices and the output prices, then there's a chance that we don't get the right picture from the single deflator. And it becomes very important to deflate separately the input prices and the output prices to get the right picture of the GDP. So these are the three major concerns in the GDP series, what we are using in the assessment of GDP, and how they are overstating the GDP growth in India, what we observe. So the only way forward, what we see is the new GDP series is supposed to come in next 5-6 months, February 2026, and it is expected that most of these things has to be more appropriate and more certain, and so that it gives the more direct picture of the economic health of India, which is very important for our policy makers, for all of us, to make the right decisions. Thank you.